And welcome to the Relationship Restaurant. This is episode 33, and we have a really special guest, a good friend of ours, who Poppy is going to introduce.
Here on the Relationship Restaurant, we always talk about heart-healthy communication, and we could think of no one else to reach out to except Rani St. Pucchi, who is an inspiring, intriguing, and exciting guest.
Oh, so good to be here, Poppy and Jeff. Thank you for having me.
So you've written so many books. Let me just tell our listeners a little bit about you because there's so much. I'm going to have to do little cliff notes. You're an award-winning couture designer and founder of the world-renowned bridal house St. Pucchi, which was started in 1985. You have designed more than 15,000 brides, celebrities, influential people, and during your career in the bridal industry that spanned more than 30 years, you've become known as the savvy expert on bridal style and everything a bride wishes for on her journey to say I do. In the final episode of Friends, I think Phoebe was wearing your dress, right?
Yes, that was correct. Yes,
you did Phoebe's dress. Wow, that is cool.
So in your new book, Your Bridal Style, Everything You Need to Know to Design the Wedding of Your Dreams, Rani shares her expertise to educate and empower every bride to design the wedding of her dreams. And those are two very different things. So how do we get from saying yes to the dress to the more important under the surface trimmings of what a relationship is all about? And that's what Rani's going to share with us today. We'll interject other things that you've offered with us here today too. One of the things that we talk about when we have weddings is, traditionally in the Western culture, at least, we have June is a very popular month for brides. I think It comes from probably the Roman times because Juno is the Roman goddess of marriage. And so maybe it was thought that couples who are married in June would be blessed and with prosperity and happiness and good things. Other times, though, it's also...
I always thought it was the good weather the whole time.
It could be, depending on where you live. But in today's economy, for those practical-minded couples, if a person marries in June, he or she is considered to have been a married person for the whole financial year. So we reach both the heart and the practical-minded head of couples marrying today. So we thought it would be great to have you on in this month to talk about your bridal fashion. So would you tell us a little bit about how you got started in 1985? What shaped you to do what you're doing today?
Actually, I was a ready-to-wear designer, not a bridal designer. And not even that, I never went to a design school. I just had a passion for fashion. And the whole fashion arena was something that I thought at the time, my life purpose, So I was invited by a woman in San Antonio to bring my collection. I was living in Bangkok, Thailand at the time. I'm actually born and raised in Thailand. So I brought my collection here to San Antonio and decided that I would have one finale dress, which would be a wedding dress. And of course, coming from Asia, my dress was in blush color. And in 1984, when I showed that dress, oh my God, the whole hall erupted with excitement. And in that audience was a leasing agent from the Dallas Apparel Mart who invited me to bring my bridal collection to show in Dallas, which it was my dream, that I would one day live in Dallas because I was like a huge fan of this TV series Dallas that I would watch in Bangkok.
Yes, we watched it too.
So I had visualized living in Dallas, and then all of a sudden this opportunity came and I thought, what bridal collection? I'm not a bridal designer, but I said yes. And I thought, I'll figure it out later. How am I going to put this collection together? But I had 6 months. So I whipped up 16 pieces and I brought them to the Dallas Apparel Mart.
Wow. Wait. Slow down. 16 dresses you whipped up in 6 months?
In 6 months, yes.
16 unique custom dresses.
Custom,
wow.
All handmade, all pure silk. And the thing that I thought could have been a disaster was that my entire collection was in color. at a time when the American brides only wore white.
Correct.
Polyester. We could not even fathom a bride walking down the aisle in any color except for white.
Correct.
And so here I am showing my collection, displaying 16 pieces in color. Everybody's walking by the showroom. They think I'm crazy. Like, who is this woman? First of all, she's a foreigner. And then, she brings these foreign goods. We don't want foreign goods, and we don't want, and what is she thinking? But can I tell you, on the third day, I was on the front page of the Dallas Apparel News, and I was hailed as a pioneer for bringing color and for bringing pure silk to the U.S. bridal scene.
Isn't it great how
I have goosebumps.
I love when people often just change the entire game of an industry. They just don't refuse
totally.
to go by the rules and say, hey, we're going to do color. What?
Yeah, totally. Like, the entire American bridal scene changed. It was daunting at first, because I had poured every last penny into this collection, and I thought, I cannot fail at this, And it led me to where I am today, I've dressed a lot of celebrities. I've won so many awards as best bridal designer. And, I moved to Dallas, Texas, and lived there for 19 years before. Now I live in California. But every dream can come true. That's what I want to say is,
right.
If you believe and you take action and you just go for it, what is it that we cannot do?
Right. So one of the celebrity packages that you've dressed for Tony Romo's wife, the Dallas Cowboys, Candace Crawford, Tara Reid, Jason Priestley's wife, Naomi Lode, actress Candace Cameron, and Grammy Award-winning country music singer Alison Krauss.
Yeah, among many
and
others.
You've been featured in Brides Magazine, Cosmopolitan Brides, Women's Wear Daily, Inside Weddings, Martha Stewart Weddings, The Knot, Town and Country. And you've been on TV, Entertainment Tonight. You've been on One Life to Live. Tell me about that one.
I've done so many, and I have to share something with you. In 1991, I think it was, when Whoopi Goldberg, she had her own show. The LGBTQ community, nobody would talk about that. It was taboo. But she dared to have these two women get married on her show. And she approached every bridal designer, and everybody refused her.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, when they asked me, I said, of course, I believe in love.
Beautiful.
And love can come in any shape or form, in any gender, and I gave her the two dresses that the girls married in. And I never go by the rules. That is the thing that I've never done.
Well, that's often, as I said before, that's often how you get acclaim and get noticed, is by breaking the rules and then doing something very different. If everybody does the same thing, nobody notices.
Yeah. It's like if you read the same books, you're talking the same talk, right?
Yes.
Right. So one of the things that we were so also inspired by, and when we had the chance to meet you personally several years ago, was your books. You have many books, and why don't you list them off? But we want to talk about the Soulmate Checklist.
Sure. My very first book was actually my memoir, and it's called Unveiled. I have not released it yet. It was written in 2014. That was when I started writing. I'm actually an English major, so that came very naturally to me. But I felt at the time, so many things were going on in my life. And in 2014, I shut myself in my house for 6 months and I wrote my memoir.
Beautiful.
I have to get this out of my system, so that I can go on with life. And so that memoir is going to be released next year. But I went on to write other books, and everything that I write about is actually an experience that I've had, So my first book that I released was called Your Body, Your Style. Basically, inviting women to love their body, because all love begins with love of self, and
Correct.
All love of right, and all love of self begins with love of our body. Because of the more than 20,000 women today that I worked with, most women felt they were not good enough. That there was something wrong with their body, that they had to go under the knife to fix this and fix that, and and the other. And I'm saying, no, you are perfect and beautiful just as you are. Just let's learn how to dress it and how to camouflage areas that you don't feel so comfortable about. And so I'm teaching them for different body types, how to dress. And so that was that book. I went on to write the Soulmate checklist based on my own experience, not only in my life, because I was married twice and divorced twice. And I felt like, what was it? I questioned myself, what was it I was doing wrong? Except I found that I wasn't doing anything wrong, except not loving myself.
Beautiful. It's such an important message for people to hear, especially those who even had a breakup or divorce. They always want to turn inward and blame.
Yeah.
In fact, we were growing every single day.
Yeah.
And when we grow, sometimes we grow into somebody we don't particularly like or know or understand. But if we can have that introspection and insight, we can learn to love yourself completely, as you just suggested.
Well, Rani, first of all, I'm shocked that you're twice divorced. This is just, we're having tons of fun at our own expense here because Poppy and I both have gone through that same journey. Yeah. And as we were kind of kidding around before we started about third time being the charm, that's what we've absolutely discovered. But what was the inspiration for the book and how did you get there? Was it through so many of the brides you worked with?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about this.
Well, what was really fascinating to me was that every bride that I worked with, and I'm literally their therapist for 9 months because it takes about 9 months, right? I mean, they're working with me. We're working together on creating this dream for them. And so I could tell which marriage was going to last and which won't.
Right.
And
how could you tell?
Yeah, what was the clues that you would see?
Some of the signs that you could give our listeners?
It was really the way they interacted with their mothers, with their fiancés, with their girlfriends, with, just that I am better than you, or, that I deserve more, or I don't deserve. Hey, I'll let you make all the decisions and I'll just sit back. And actually, I saw that a lot more, is that I am not worthy. I am not deserving, And so I saw each end of the spectrum. And that's what kind of led me to write this book. And I thought, if I can share my journey and the journey of every woman, every person rather, because it's not gender particular,
Sure.
We all suffer these nagging voices in our heads, the self-talk that we have to just give and are not worthy of receiving. And so I write, I make these checklists and I walk the reader through every stage of their relationship, from the time they are single, a relationship with their self, because that is really important. Whatever you want in somebody else, whatever you're looking for, first you have to embody that.
Okay. So is there any particular item on the Soulmate checklist that you think is most critical for someone to learn, if you had to pick one or two?
Yeah, I would say your foundation is the most important. It's like a building. If you don't build a good foundation and that foundation starts with you, then that building can topple very easily. Also, expectations, Poppy. We have these expectations of others and we tend to not take responsibility. Or each one of us, we are 100% responsible for everything that happens in our lives.
So when we have expectations, you're saying we must communicate them to our partner.
Right. But then also don't expect perfection. That's what we expect. There is no perfect person, but there is a perfect person for you.
Right.
Perfection doesn't exist. And, we tend to forget also, when we are dating, we like the person, our partner, the way he is, or the way she is. And then as soon as we get married, we want to change them.
Yes.
And what is that about? What is it that we forget what it was that made us fall in love with this person and allow them to grow, allow them to be imperfect, because how perfect are we, really?
We would suggest, Jeff and I are both into prevention so much, we would suggest that people have those ongoing, meaningful
conversations.
Yes, communication all the time.
That's what the reason we developed our emotional clock, a tool that we have that helps people make sure that they always have these conversations when anything at all is in question, when they have any kind of issues that they're in their own mind, and not keep it within themselves, but to always bring these things up before they grow into something much larger. And they always do if you don't bring them up.
Yeah, always, always. I mean, from a little something, a little glance, I mean, you can make up 100 stories. Oh my God, what happened
Yes.
here, right?
Poppy and I, when we were writing our story and looking back on our own marriages and things that weren't right, and we see so many things not right with people, we always see a lot of red flags that pop up. And many of the red flags are, something as simple. I know I did this when I was 25 years old, and, it's about time to get married, And you just, this person's a very nice person, and, gee, let's get married.
Yeah.
Or Poppy and I have seen it where there's very good fits and everything except for love for each other. The families like each other. They're the same socioeconomic backgrounds. You went to the same kind of schools. Everything looks good, but you really don't love each other. And are these things that you kind of experienced when you were walking these young ladies through the process? Did you see a lot of that?
Absolutely, because how can you have a long-lasting relationship if you don't build a friendship first?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be best friends first.
Nice.
That friendship will last. Everything else can fall away. But if you are best friends, you will never hurt your best friend. You will never take your best friend for granted.
Right.
And I mean, these brides that I worked with, Poppy and Jeff, they are great at planning a wedding. Most women are great at planning a wedding, but they have no clue how to plan a marriage.
Yes.
That's a great point, isn't it?
That's a wonderful point. We'll put that in the title of this podcast, I'm sure. So, if you see a bride and she has some vulnerabilities, she has some insecurities, she has some doubts, either in her body language, her micro expressions, her face, her reluctance to speak, do you step in? Do you say anything?
Let's say there's a scenario where a mother is there with the daughter, and the mother is paying, and the mother insists that the daughter should wear a certain dress, and the daughter doesn't really want it, but she cannot say anything because the mother is paying. So I will try to step in and kind of make sure that both are happy.
Right.
Let's give the mother a little bit of what she really wants, because mothers have a dream, for their daughters and how they want to see them. And the daughters is their day.
Right.
So I try to step in, but you have to be very diplomatic.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I can see that being a real fight to the death sometimes, where overbearing mothers are trying to run the show.
Even fiancés, they come nowadays, they are involved. They're very much involved. They're like, oh my God, I want you to wear your dress. Like the neckline has to be that low. It has to be really, really, really sexy,
Really?
And the bride is like, let me try sitting in this dress. Oh my God, I cannot even sit in it. Can I?
Yes.
So yeah, you see everything, and it's sometimes it can be funny. Sometimes it's like, okay, now how do I deal with this? But I'm very patient and I'm very calm. And
so, have you ever had the situation where you have both the mother and the future mother-in-law at the fittings and dress?
oh yeah.
And
Yes,
how is that?
true.
Is that a pretty intriguing dynamic?
It is, especially if the mother-in-law, because in some ethnic groups, the mother-in-law actually pays for the dress.
Oh.
And so she feels that
She gets the vote.
Yeah, she gets to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this power struggle.
Yes.
I should write a book now, what my bridal business has taught, about these bridezillas sometimes.
Yes.
And I have a lot of stories to tell about that.
Poppy and I were also fascinated. We know that you took a part of your personal growth journey. You spent time 10 days, I believe it was, in a monastery. And
I did.
then we read some of your excerpts I think you had on Facebook.
On your blog.
On your blog. And it just sounded astounding, the journey you had and self-discovery. Share with us some of what that was about.
So I've had to struggle with a lot in my life because I had a lot of cultural conditioning and upbringing and stuff that I had to deal with. And I needed a miracle. My life changed drastically in 2014. So many things happened, so many things I could have never, even imagined would, and they all revolve around family, because heartaches happen from our family dynamics. And so I decided that I just needed to get away from everything, from life, really, and go and sit under the Bodhi tree, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard about this place in Chiang Mai, in the north of Thailand, and it's a Vipassana retreat, a Buddhist monastery. And I called one day and I thought, I'd like to do the work. And so they said, well, we usually request that you do a 26-day, because that is the course, 26 days, but you have to do at least a minimum of 10. And I thought, well, I can do that. And they said, well, we are fully booked, and you have to wait for a year. And then the next day the call came and they said, oh, one spot opened up. And so I'm like, yeah. So the very next morning, I was in Bangkok at the time, visiting Bangkok. And so the very next morning I took the early morning flight and I went to this monastery.
So how was the cell phone coverage there? Or would you check your messages 10 times a day or what?
No. As soon as you arrive, they take away your cell phone.
What? No devices.
No devices, no phones, no nothing. And you actually have to wear all white. Everybody that is in these yogis, we are called, have to wear white as throughout, so from head to toe, you are in white.
Did you wear any of your wedding dresses?
Plain, simple white, hair tied back, like simple, because they didn't want anything to come between your meditation, because this is mainly about self introspection. Like you really have to go inward and be present and look at your life.
Didn't you have to be quiet? I remember some outstanding hours and hours of the day. You were totally silent.
In difficult positions?
Yes. It's a sitting and standing meditation. There's a way that, it's a Buddhist Vipassana. It's not the same as Vipassana in the rest of the world. This is more intense. I was more interested in a retreat where the tradition would be honored properly and not watered down.
Right.
Buddhist style Vipassana, of course, was very authentic. You don't speak at all, except for like every day at 3 p.m. you have a few minutes with the abbot and you can share what your challenges are or any questions that come up or something that's bothering you. But other than that, you are silent, total silence.
So total silence for 10 days, except for the few minutes with the abbot every day.
That's exactly,
wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're both looking at each other saying, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that being that quiet and that introspective. But I imagine you go through an incredible self-discovery during that process.
You do. You learn so much because you don't talk to anybody. You can't even look at anybody. You're just walking and you're doing this meditation, or you're sitting in this painful meditation, cross-legged position for hours on end. And all you're doing is praying and chanting. You're chanting the Buddhist text. And when you're not doing that, you are really going in and, having all this conversation with yourself.
Was it highly emotional for you at times?
Very much. I have never cried so much in my life.
Beautiful.
It was very moving experience, but it was so enlightening. Like I emerged from these 10 days a totally different person.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. I think everybody should go through this. This is definitely an eye-opener.
What was the most significant change for you after going through all this, Rani?
Well, I asked the abbot. I had so many questions, but I talked about trust. I talked about betrayal. I talked about, what is it that one is supposed to do when these things happen in our lives? How are we able to welcome people who have done all this to you? And the abbot just kept on saying, you just go ahead and send them loving kindness. You bless them and you send them loving kindness. That's all you do. You keep sending this loving kindness.
So it's a message of forgiveness and
of forgiveness.
Yes.
And acceptance and forgiveness, and to be mindful of your thoughts all the time, of your feelings, of where you are, to really be present, because we waste our time. We're looking at the future that hasn't happened yet. We're looking at the past. We can't change that because it's gone, you know, and we're missing life, basically. We're missing living, you know.
You're missing now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So if you had one most meaningful takeaway from your spiritual journey, what do you think it would be?
I would say everybody that you are blaming today actually was going through something in their own lives. It's never about you. It's always about them.
Right.
And once you understand that, once you get that, you are able to bless them, and you're able to forgive them, and you're able to love them.
So even the person in the commuter traffic that cuts you off, you should bless them instead of giving them the bad finger.
Exactly.
I haven't done that very well.
No, you have to, because you don't know what they are going through.
Right.
Maybe they had to get in a hurry somewhere that was really crucial for them. So you just give them way. What was that 1 minute going to do to you, to your life? Nothing.
Do you remember the Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People?
Yes.
So Stephen Covey tells the story of when he was on a subway. This is about 25, 30 years ago. He was on a subway in New York. It was a Sunday morning. It wasn't very crowded. It was early in the morning, and a man and 3 relatively small young children were on the subway, and the children were running amok. They were running everywhere and
totally unruly.
Some of the people, including Stephen Covey, who was on the subway, was getting exasperated. They were very annoyed that the father was just sitting there not doing anything. And so finally somebody went up to him and they said, "Hey, come on, guy, your kids are running all over. They're hitting people on the seats, you know, accidentally, but you should do something about that." And he sort of came out of his reverie and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We just came from the hospital. Their mother died a few minutes ago. Oh, so, of course, everybody on the subway feels terrible that this happened. So it speaks to what you're just talking about. We have no idea what the other person is experiencing.
We have no idea, because they are in pain. If they are doing something that you are not liking, they are in pain.
I love that message that it's always about them and it's not you. So that many times, I think all of us tend to take things personally when we shouldn't. It has nothing to do with us.
I'm curious, kind of one good summation to our call here. When you look towards your next love relationship in your life, what does your personal soulmate checklist look like? What does that person, what do they look like?
It's pretty long. You would need an hour to unpack that.
Well, just give us the highlights.
What are the highlights?
I would say he would be kind, generous, giving, and he would be my best friend.
Nice.
You know, yeah.
We're going to have a little video that's coming out, little short vignettes. We went to Europe and we interviewed people from all over the world about the number one most important thing in a relationship. And it was kind of fun because we had people speak in their native language and answer the question. I'd say about 40% of the people said trust was the most important thing in a relationship if they could only pick one. And then there were people that said trust and love and friendship and admiration. I don't think they understood, just pick one. But what do you think about trust?
Well, when you are best friends, then you trust each other.
It comes.
And you would never betray that trust. Yeah, it's all encompassing.
Yes.
The love is there, the trust is there, the respect is there, the communication is there. I mean, all the important things that make a relationship a good one.
That's beautiful. Okay, so your books, if people want to find your books on Amazon.com, can you just read off the book titles that you have so far?
Sure. It's Your Body, Your Style. And then there is the Soulmate Checklist. Then there is Your Bridal Style. And my new book that is going to come out in September is called Gold in the Cracks.
And that I am so excited to pick that one up. So give us a little synopsis of Gold in the Cracks.
The main message of this book is that you are more beautiful for being broken.
I love that. So the imperfections should be embraced.
Imperfections are, yes, that they make you who you are.
And the journey, I know we all get broken on our life journey. I know Poppy and I have talked about this, that the journey we had made our reuniting after 32 years that much more special and sweet and valuable to both of us.
Yeah, because you know what? We are all wounded, but from every wound, there's a scar, and every scar tells a story.
Right.
Yeah, and that story, it's beautiful, and we have to embrace that. We are who we are. Like I am who I am today because of what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Had I not had the kind of life I had, I would not be the person I am today. And I'm so grateful. I bless everybody in my life that has actually brought me here.
We had Father's Day here last Sunday, and I have 2 ex-husbands who are fathered 4 children, 2 each.
Right.
And it is always on my mind on their birthdays or Father's Day to thank them for doing that. I honor my ex-husbands. Jeff and I are actually friendly with them. We get together. We actually stayed at my ex's house out of town one time. And so we already kind of do that. We don't blame and project our insecurities on someone else, but
we've forgiven any of the hurts that we've done to each other.
I thank them for helping me discover who I was along the way. In our book 1 Billion Seconds, we never disparage the exes. We talk about only the self, and that we may have lost our way, but you reclaim that self.
I know your first husband wanted a little bit more coverage, I think. But,
yes, he did. He did. He was very funny. He goes, "Can I, if they make a movie, can I be in the movie?" And I was like, well,
sure.
We'll see. But
well, Rani, we can't thank you enough for joining us. This has been delightful catching up, talking, understanding more. We wish you great success with your book launches.
And Rani, we need to tell folks where they can find you, not just her incredible books on Amazon, but stpucci.com.
Yes, that's my bridal website, stpucci.com, but my personal website is Rani St. Pucci. It's RANISTPUCCHI.com.
We might be reaching out because we have a couple of daughters that are wandering down this path, it looks like, so we might have to be contacting
I know. I think we should.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, anybody, male or female, you look at this wedding bridal site, oh my gosh, you will drool. You will just be in awe at these gorgeous, gorgeous dresses. They are fabulous, and you are so unique in your style. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, thank you, Rani, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And sharing your journey with us.
And thank you for being a guest on Relationship Restaurant. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.